All right. Our plan today is to go through number 5 because we hadn't done a problem that was like this last week. So we're going to go through number 5. We're not going to do number 6. But once you have number 5, it's going to allow you to do the other 2 problems on your homework. I think it was number 2 and number 3 that both asked you to find how long it would take for something to happen. And so after number 5, you'll have a problem to kind of guide you through how to do those problems. And then after this, you're just going to be able to work on your assignment. Hopefully, you'll be able to finish it before the end of the day. So in number 5, I want you to read the problem, and I want you to identify all the pieces that you can, remembering that the formula looks like this. A was the ending value. P is the initial value. Do you remember what P stood for? Principal. Very nice. So P is the principal, or the initial value. You'll have 1 plus R. What is R? The rate. So it's that percent, but it's converted to a decimal by moving the decimal twice to the left. And then over n to the power of n times t. What is t? Time, right? Time in years. And then n is not expressly given to you. It's going to be some kind of language, and you have to decode it. So if the amount of interest is compounded yearly or annually, that's 1 time a year. If it's compounded monthly, that's 12 times a year. Quarterly, 4 times a year. You've got that front part of the page in your notes to look at what n means. So take a moment to read your question and underline the important pieces of information. I'm going to pause the video. You should do the same. All right. So in number 5, it says if you invest $5,000, what is $5,000 the variable representation of? The principal. Yeah. So that's how much you're investing. So you're investing $5,000 in an account that pays 4.25% interest. What can that give you? What value can that give you? The R value, but R is not 4.25. How do you get the R value? Moving the decimal over 2 times, that's right. So point what? Give me the values. 0.425. Perfect. All right. So we took that decimal, moved it once, twice to the left, filled in the space with a 0. That's the R value. It's compounded quarterly, so what does that mean about the N value? 4 times a year. And then we're looking for how long. So what is it that we're solving for? Time, T. That's what we don't know. Big old fat question mark. How long would it take for the money to double? Now, it doesn't expressly say how much our ending amount is, but if you double that investment amount of $5,000, what should you end with? Nice, $10,000. Okay. So we're going to take all of those pieces and we're going to put them in their correct spot. But this is going to be a problem that requires us to do a little bit of work and then go back up and then do a little bit more work in like a second column. So I'm not going to write it straight down the middle. I'm going to start it over here so that then I have space to finish it over here. So just FYI for your planning purposes, I would start it over here. So A, 10,000, P, 5,000, 1 plus R. R is 0.0425 over N. N was 4. And then what's the exponent? 4 times what? 4 times T, yeah. And you could say 4 times X, but I'm going to leave it as 4 times T so that I remember what it is that I'm supposed to be finding. Cool. 4 times T. Okay, typically we would try to isolate our variable, but our variable's up in the exponent, and this is what we have as the base, and we're raising it to the power of 4t. So, like, is there something that we could move away from the right side to make this look nicer? Yeah. Subtract 5,000. But is 5,000 being added? So change your operation. What am I doing with 5,000? Dividing it. Absolutely. So let's divide by 5,000. I like it. So that's gone. What happens to these zeros on top and bottom? They do. So gone, gone, gone. They all cancel. What's 10 divided by 5? 2. Cool. Okay. So I have kind of a diet problem for you. If I had a problem that looked like this, and I know I'm getting kind of close to the bottom of the board, I apologize. In fact, here, let me move this up for you guys. There we go. So if I have a problem that looks like this, do you remember how to solve this? This was the day that you had to watch a video lesson, and it was in that video lesson. How do you get x out of the exponent? You remember? You got to circle it and move it where? To the front. But I do that if it's a property of a logarithm. So I have to take the log of both sides. Do you remember this? I got to take the log of both sides so that then move this into the front. Do you remember that? It's been a while. It's been a while. But then once you do that, now this exponent, this x, is being multiplied by this log of 2, right? So how do you move the log of 2? By dividing by log of 2. So the steps were to take the log of both sides and then use power property to take that exponent and move it out into the front. Then you can divide and you can get your x value. So this is kind of the diet problem, right? Log of both sides, use power property, divide. Log of both sides, use power property, divide. Same thing's happening here. What should I take of both sides? I should take log of both sides. That's right. So I have log of 2 and log of all the big stuff. 1 plus 0.0425 over 4 to the power of 14. Divide. We took log of both sides. Now what's next to do? I can't divide before I use a property. What property? I could solve the parentheses. You're not wrong. I could definitely do that because that amount of work right there undone kind of makes me nervous. Does it make you nervous? Makes me nervous too. Thankfully, we have a calculator. What's up? Yeah, let's move the 4t in front of the log. So I'm starting my new column of work here. I'm actually going to change the way that this is written, and instead of 4 times t, I'm going to write it as t times 4, simply because it's going to look nicer in a second. You don't have to do that, but it's something I want to do when showing you how to do this for the first time. So our steps were take log of both sides, use power property, divide. So we took log of both sides, we used power property to move the 4t out in front, or t times 4 out in front, and then what's our last step to do? Divide, right? Divide by whatever we're multiplying that variable by. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to divide by all of this, whatever it equals when we put it in the calculator. We're going to type all of that in, and we're going to divide log of 2 by all of that, whatever it is. Does that make sense? If it doesn't, let me know. So if you are watching this as a video, I want you to pause your video. I want you to type into the calculator 4 log of, open your parentheses, 1 plus 0.0425 over 4, and close your. Okay, so I have 4 times log and then of 1 plus and then the r value divided by 4. I close my parentheses, I hit enter, I get kind of a kooky number, right? And I don't want to round this. This is not something that I want to do. So in the previous problem that we did last Friday, in the previous problem, do you remember how we divided log of 2 by this crazy decimal? How did we do that? Use the answer button second and then the negative sign. That's right. So I'm going to type in log of 2. Log is over there on the left side. I do need to close my parentheses though, because when I type in the log button, it automatically opens them. So I do need to close them. And then I'm going to divide by the answer. So remember, to get the answer from the previous problem, you hit second, and then you hit the negative sign, You've got log of 2 divided by that crazy decimal that we got right here. So t equals, and this is an amount of time, right? So I'm really hoping that this is not like 1 million something. That would be an answer that's not reasonable. It also would probably not be reasonable if I had like 0.00 numbers, but I think the amount of time in years. Does that seem reasonable? Yeah, that seems like it would be okay. It doesn't tell us what to round to, so if it doesn't mention it, round to whatever makes sense. So if it's money, 2 decimal places. But if it's anything else, maybe round it to like 3 decimal places. So 16.39. Tell me about this 5. It rounds up to a 6 because the 8 pushes that up to a 6. And then we're measuring this in years, correct? Okay. So that's how you find an amount of time. The steps, kind of in summary, finding all of the pieces, putting them into the equation in the correct space. Divide by your principal. You have to take log of both sides. Use the power property to bring the exponent out in the front. And then type this in the calculator and divide the left side by whatever you get here. In your homework, that's the way that you do number 2 and 3. So I think I assigned 1, 2, 3, and 7. 1 and 7 are kind of like what we did on Friday, but 2 and 3 are exactly like this. So take the rest of the class period to just solve number 2 and number 3. Try and finish up your homework, okay?